web ecosystem, we should all agree that CSS should not be left behind. I mean, there is some really cool stuff that's coming in to CSS, and to bring that to us and to educate us more on the newer ideas, including some really fancy scroll-driven animations, we have on stage Shruti, who's a popular educator and, well, educators today, so thank you. Please join me in welcoming on stage Shruti.
Hello everyone, hello Delhi. Hope you're having a good time, apart from the weather of course, or the smog. So it's so good to be here. I'm Shruti Balasa, lovely to meet you all. And in this JavaScript-filled conference, you need a break, right? So that's what I'm talking about, CSS today. I hope it's a good refresher. If you hate CSS, trust me, you won't hate this because there are very few concepts that I'm going to talk about, and you'll really love it. So scroll-driven animations, pretty cutting edge, if you want to call, and something that's not even available in all browsers, so why is she talking about it? You'll get to know very soon. So let's get started with what the future might look like with scroll-driven animations in CSS and not just JavaScript, or more in CSS. So I am Shruti Balasa from Bangalore. I am a tech educator. I create courses. I've written a couple of ebooks, and I'm a LinkedIn learning instructor, so I create courses on LinkedIn Learning. And I have a YouTube channel which has about 12,000 subscribers so far, mostly on Tailwind CSS. So if that's something you want to learn, yeah, my channel is a place to go. Apart from that, I'm currently building a SaaS that's called VoxPop. The alpha is not even out yet, so we are, me and another person from Portugal, we are building a super simple, website builder, but not like Wix or WordPress. Those are more for tech-oriented or, developers. We are going to build it for non-techies. The alpha was supposed to be out day before yesterday, but you know how it is. It didn't come out. We are still working on it, and probably 3 more weeks from now, you can join the waitlist at voxpopsites.com. So that's about me. A quick motion warning, the slides are going to contain a lot of things moving around and scrolling, because obviously that's what my talk is about. So if you have a medical condition that makes you sick watching at a lot of movement, you can either stop looking at the slides or you can step out. Feel free to do that. All right, so I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to talk about. So first we will see what scroll-driven animations are. Really, most of you know it. But then we're also going to talk about why use CSS. Is there any benefit? Or what is it all about? And things like that. Then we're going to see how they work. That's the major chunk of this talk. I want you to see how easy it is. And then we're going to see some demos. I usually avoid live demos because something goes wrong. But I mean, when you're talking about animations and you don't see them working live, there's no kick in that, right? So I included the demos. And finally, we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts. Let's see how quick we can get through this. So first, what are scroll-driven animations? All of you must have seen it, mostly in Apple websites, right? You start scrolling, and then the phone starts turning, and you want to buy it, you want to have the latest model, you just want all the features, and most of the time you just spend drooling over the website, like, wow. At least we web developers, the users, I mean, people who are not on the development side, they just look at the, product. Yeah, they're going to look at the product and they start looking at the specifications, price, and everything. But we developers are like, how did they make this website? I mean, what is it? You go inspect element, and we do all of those things. So you all have seen scroll-driven animations, I hope. But also, I want to show you some demos, some which are real world, and some others, some experimental ones, like people who have put up on CodePen and things like that. So let's look at some of them if it works. But even before that, I want to talk about what scroll-driven animations are. Like the definition, textbook definition is that are linked animations that are linked to the scroll position. So it's not something that runs on its own, like in 5 seconds or 1 second or something. It's the way you move your scroll bar is how the animations are going to change. So if you move them back, the animations run in the reverse and things like that. So let's see some examples now. This is the Apple website. So I'm actually scrolling. I've recorded this while I'm scrolling it, and it's almost like you can see a video, and it zooms in. Now I scroll back, and then the animation goes back, right? So then I scroll forward again, and this is how you see it. And if I stop scrolling, the animation also stops. Here's another example of the Chrome website itself. So let's say you start scrolling, and you see some images zooming out, zooming in, scrolling, and you see the Chrome logo go that way. Further scroll down, this image pops up and zooms out, making it full screen, and you further scroll up, the image changes, and there's so much that you can do. And here also, it just goes to, this is not scroll driven, like the moment you come there, it starts, the animation is just triggered, and from there it takes on in the timeline. Let's look at another example. This is a Chronicle website, very beautiful actually if you look at it. So here when you start scrolling, the image goes up, and here things are moving up and down. It's quite immersive. And then look at this. This text, as you scroll, it starts loading. So it makes you really read. So that's something very beautiful. The way they've done it is really nice. One more, this is not a real world one. Jay, I don't know if you follow CSS stuff, you must be following this guy. He builds a lot of cool stuff. So this is his code pen, and this is him trying out scroll-driven animations. And the moment you scroll, things start moving out of the page, and you scroll further. Look at this phone, it just starts scrolling, and then it sticks again. So something very beautiful with sticky position and scroll-driven animations. Next, also another demo by Jay. Very simple, actually. It's a gallery where the moment you scroll, it's like the images are popping up from the bottom. It's a slight animation, but it makes it look beautiful. What makes it even more beautiful is the masonry structure. If you just put those images of the same height and width, it might not look this great. And another last demo by Anna Tudor, and you see that scroll-driven animations are not just vertical, so she just, so when you scroll, something just slides. So you can completely experiment with all directions. So you get the point, right? Scroll-driven animations, they are not just triggered by the scroll bar, so you're not using that what do you call intersection observer, where the object comes into view and it animates on its own in 1 or 2 seconds. It's not that way. It's linked to the scroll bar. That's the whole idea of scroll-driven animations. So you know what they are. Next, we're going to look at why use CSS. Well, we've all been doing this in JavaScript. It's possible. We are JavaScript developers, so why not simply use JS? Why do we have to learn CSS, or why do we have to do this in CSS? Is something we're going to look at. So when you use CSS for scroll-driven animations, they are not handled on the main thread of the browser. That's the main reason why you should use them. So that way, there are a lot of things running on the main thread anyway. So if you put animations also on that, they might become a little glitchy, right? They won't be as snappy as you want them. So the user will definitely not have the best experience. When you use CSS scroll-driven animations, they are on the compositor thread. That's where they run. So obviously, it's very smooth. You can check out any of these demos on CodePen, or you can try them yourself. You'll feel the difference. You'll feel, okay, this is smooth. You can scroll up and down while something else is loading on the page. Also, you will not find it glitchy. That's the main reason. But I know, how about browser support? A lot of you who have heard about it already know that this is not baseline. It's not supported in a majority of the browsers. So right now, we only have the support in Chrome and Edge, but it's not supported in Firefox and Safari at all, and we don't even know if it's going to be coming anytime soon. So maybe 60% of the users will be able to get this, but what about the other? 60% is, yeah, I mean, the minimum. I guess a lot more people use Chrome, but still, you're leaving out a huge chunk. So you have two options. What can you do? One is use it as a progressive enhancement, because this is not like the absolute requirement. It's you're just making it a little better for your users, a little more immersive. So you can simply put it, and if your clients are okay, just or whoever you're building it for, you can say that this is available in some of the browsers, but not available in all. So something better than nothing, right? You can do that. Or there's a very easy and quick JS polyfill available. So you're like, what? We are using JS again then? But yeah, it's for only those percentage of browsers or users that do not have this available in the browser. So you can check the support, the browser support, and then use this JS polyfill only if it's not available. That way, you're still saving some, you're still giving a good experience to a lot of people. All right, so that's the main reason of why you should use CSS. If you're still not convinced, you will in the next few slides when you see how easy it actually is, right? So now how they work. Let's look at that. I created a very simple demo. I had a lot of fun in the last few weeks while creating demos using scroll-driven animations, because they were easy first thing, and it's just fun, right? You're like, okay, this works, so why not try this? Let me try if this can happen, and it's very much fun. So what I did was, now notice what happens. This is a demo, and I'll show you how it works. So the moment I start scrolling, this ball starts rolling. And the moment I reach the end of the scroll position, the ball is out of the picture. So if I start scrolling again, yeah, I don't know if I recorded that. So yeah, it's where if I stop the scroll, yeah, and then it comes back. If I go up, it comes back. So that's the simplest scroll-driven animation demo. Now let's see how to make this happen. Right, so all we have is, the font is visible, right? Like all of you can see the code, yeah. So all we have is a paragraph and an image, that's all. So let's look at the styles. First, for the body, I'm setting a height of 200 viewport height, because we need a scroll bar. That's how you can animate first thing. So if with just the paragraph and the image, the height of the body is very small, so I'm increasing the body height just to be able to scroll. So I'm setting it 2 times. And then what I do is, you don't want this paragraph also to scroll up. The moment you set 200 viewport height, the paragraph starts scrolling once you scroll. We don't want that, so I'm setting that to fixed. And I'm just using some positioning to put it in place, and it stays right there even when you scroll. I do the same thing with the ball as well. So I set the image also to position fixed, and then I put it at the bottom left corner. So bottom 0, left 0. So this is the setting. No animations yet. Next, let's add some keyframes. Okay, this is just normal, regular animation. We are not using scroll-driven animations yet. So I simply have a roll keyframes animation. What it does is, at 0%, it doesn't translate, it doesn't rotate, it's where it is. But at 100%, it would have translated to the entire viewport width, and it would have rotated some like 4 times or something. So I've just added a number, 850 degrees, that made sense. So that's all is the keyframes. So if without scroll-driven animation, so let's say you just wanted the ball to roll as soon as you opened the document, how would you do that? You would simply add this animation CSS property. You would say roll. You would set a time, like 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever. And then you would set the timing function, ease in out, cubic bezier, things like that. And finally, you would do forwards or infinite, things like that, right? So this is normal animation. What happens when you do this? And if you, you also need to set the transform origin, because it needs to know where it needs to rotate. So we are setting it as center, like center vertically and center horizontally. So once you do this, just this, and refresh the browser, it will start rolling. You're not scrolling, nothing, you're right there, but the ball starts rolling. That's obvious. That's how all, in refresh again, the ball starts rolling again. And it's gone, because we've just set the animation once. We've set forwards. So the animation stops. Now, to change this to scroll driven, so to just attach this animation to the scroll position, all you have, so what is happening is this animation is following the document timeline. What is the document timeline? It starts the moment you refresh the browser, and from there it just goes on 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. You refresh the browser again, it resets the document timeline. So the animation is following the document timeline. But what we want it to follow is the scroll timeline, which is why we simply use a CSS property called animation timeline. So what's the timeline that the animation should follow? It should follow the scroll timeline. So we set it to the scroll function. Now this scroll function accepts a few parameters. I'll come to that, but just using the defaults, just using this single CSS rule, you will get what you want. So now if you refresh the page and then start scrolling, it's linked to the scroll position. So this is all you need to do to set this animation to scroll driven. Great. So now let's look at what are the parameters that it accepts. So, oh yeah, another thing. So you had this 5 seconds, right? Now it lost meaning. It doesn't run on the document timeline. So you can either keep it or remove it. It will not make any difference because you've anyway changed the animation timeline. Also, notice that you can't reverse this order. You can't first set the animation timeline and then set the animation. It will reset it to document timeline, so it will not work. Also, you cannot use this in the short form. So that's not possible yet. I'm not sure if it will be possible in the future. But this is wrong. So the only way to do this is set the animation and then set the timeline. Perfect. So what are the parameters it accepts? There are two things. One is the scroller. That is, see, you might have multiple scrolling windows within a page, right? You might have another element, another card or a box or something with a scroller within that with overflow set to scroll. So that way you might have multiple. So if you have an element within another scroll box, then you might have to tell it, like, should it follow the scroll bar within that, or should it follow the entire body scroll bar? So that's the first argument. And so you can say nearest scroll bar, the nearest parent scroll bar, or you can say root, or you can say self. So you might want to animate itself. And then comes the other one, axis. So either do you want it to follow the horizontal scroll bar or the vertical one? So it has 4 different values: block, inline. Block is usually vertical, like it follows, it's the perpendicular direction in which your text flows. So if in English, obviously, we have this writing in the horizontal direction, so block means the opposite. But if you have changed the direction of text, then block will mean horizontal. So don't worry about that. Anyway, the default is block, and the other one is inline. So it's usually horizontal, and then you have X and Y also if you want to be more explicit of, do you want it to follow the horizontal scroll bar or the vertical scroll bar? So the default for scroller is nearest, and the default for axis is block. That's why it worked when we just said scroll. All right, so now it's not it, right? Otherwise my talk would have ended. There are a lot more scenarios that you have to face. So in our example, this was the only thing. So let's get the ball rolling. That was the only section in our web page. But what if we have a section on top? And now if we start scrolling, notice that the ball is already gone, right? Because it started scrolling when we were at the top of the page. We didn't even see it, and it's already gone by the time we reach to it. That's not what we want. Sometimes our objects that we want to scroll might be somewhere in the end of the page, and we want the animation to start only when we are viewing it, right? So in that case, instead of using the scroll timeline, we use something called as the view timeline. So what is view timeline is, the view timeline starts when that object is in view. You're able to see it, and the view timeline ends once the object is out of the view. So that's usually what we would want most of the times. If it's a scroll indicator, like how much the page has loaded and things like that, you would need the scroll timeline. Otherwise, you would mostly use the view timeline. So now, by simply changing the scroll timeline to view timeline, the same example, you see it starts scrolling the moment it is in view, right? Even if a small part of it is in view, it starts scrolling, and it finishes scrolling when the last part of it is visible. So you're using the view timeline now. This also accepts two parameters, the axis and the inset. Axis, something already, something we saw, it's the exact same thing, block, inline, x and y. And inset is, something like you can set a padding. So we saw the example, right? The ball started rolling the moment a small part of it was visible. So let's say we want to set up something like a padding of 200 pixels, which is the size of the ball. So when it comes within that viewport, like further within a smaller window of the entire page, if it starts coming there, then it starts scrolling. That's something like, that's what you can do with inset. So let's set an inset of 200 pixels. So notice that you don't have to mention both the parameters. You can mention either of them. You cannot mention any. You can use both, or you can even use them in the other order. Like, so you can mention 200 pixels first, and then you can mention x-axis or y-axis, anything. So now if we just set inset as 200 pixels and start scrolling, notice that the moment the ball comes here, like it starts scrolling. So there is that 200 pixels of, you can imagine it as a padding, and then it stops when there is still 200 pixels in the top. So that's the inset, but it's still not enough. Like, that is not sufficient. Sometimes you would want the scroll to start at a different point, end at a different point, and things like that, for which we have another CSS property called animation range. So you can have finer control of when the animation starts and when it ends. For this, we're going to look at some demos. I hope you can still see me behind the podium, but even if not, you can see the code. So let's go. Okay, I'm going to turn this off, I guess. Can I keep it here? Can you still hear me? Great. Okay, so let's hope this works. I might have to, I will increase the font size. Can you see it? Okay. This was probably not the one. Okay, so I first have a demo of a sliding gallery. Is my voice echoing? Okay, so we have this gallery. You saw the demo at the beginning, right? So the images were popping into the screen, and I tried to do something slightly different. Right now, nothing happens. So this is the starting point. I want you to just see that there are some images which are simply loading. This is the starting point. So for this, all we have is a paragraph and a set of 18 images or something. That's all we have so far. I have some styles which are really not important, just the position and grid and just the height and width of the image. So no animations yet. So that's what we're going to do now. So first thing is we will add keyframes. What I want to do is, as I'm scrolling, I want the images to start sliding from the left. Okay, just something. So I'll say slide from left. Okay, and I'll say at 0%, what you do is, I'll first set the opacity to maybe 0.5, just to fade in and slide. And I'll say transform, translate X, minus 100 pixels or something, so that it doesn't start from like the extreme end. It just slides from a little, a little 100 pixels offset. And what I'm going to do at 100% is, I'll set it to whatever it has to be. The final state is transform, translate X, 0. So I'm just going to copy it from there. Right, so at 0%, I wanted to start from 100 pixels offset. And at 100%, it's at its normal place where you see it. So now I'm going to attach this animation to the image, first without scroll driven. So I'm simply going to say slide from left, and let's say 1 second, and then, or maybe 2 seconds, we might not be able to see. I'll set the timing function to ease in out, and I'll say forwards. Okay, by just doing this, it'll follow the document timeline. Oh, that's great. I'll just reload it from here. Yeah, so you notice it's in the document timeline. So all of the images, they just follow the document timeline. As I'm refreshing, it will simply start sliding from left. Now let's attach it to the view timeline. So here I'm going to say animation timeline and set it to view. No parameters, no animation range, nothing. So as soon as I do this, yeah, notice what happens. I'm scrolling and each of it is just falling into place as I'm scrolling. So it's already, nice, but let's make some changes to it. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to push the first row from left and the second one from right and the third from left and so on. A little bit of alternate effect. For that, it's a little crazy. Just bear with me. So what you have to do is you'll have to use this nth child and do 6n plus 1 because like every sixth image it changes, right? So 6n plus 1 means from 1, 2, 3 is something and 3, 4, 5 is something else. Then again 6, 7, 8 is the same. So you do this 6n plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 will follow the same animation, that is slide from left, let's say. And then we have another one, we need to have one more called slide from right, where the only thing I change is the positions, translate X. This time I start from plus 100 pixels, not minus 100 pixels. And I attach this to 6n plus 4, 5, and 6. So I say 6n plus 4, 5, and 6. I slide from right. Okay. Let me start from the top. So now you see it's really nice. It's beautiful. So here we have not set any animation range. So what is happening is, observe the second row now. It starts scrolling from the time a small part of it is visible, like we saw, and then keep observing that second row, the one with the waterfall, and it's still scrolling even when a small part of it is still visible. So it starts from the bottom till the end, right? Maybe that's not what we want. We want to, let's say we wanted to start when the complete image is visible, like maybe not already. Once the complete image is visible and then, sorry, no, that won't be possible. Let the start position be same. Let's change the end of the animation. So what we can do is there is this property I told you, right? Animation range. Now this can be split into two properties, or we can use two properties. This is the shorthand. It's not animation, sorry. Animation range start, and you can have an animation range end, right? So for the start, let's leave the behavior as it is because it's perfect. You want it to already start animating when it's in the view, but we want it to stop maybe when it's not too much in the end. So there are a few values like content, cover, and then entry, and sorry, you can't see it, entry, exit. So these are the values that suggest where it should end. I will show you what each of that means. So for this, you will have to, you can use this tool which has been created by the Chrome team, but I don't know if you can, if the internet is good, you can see it. Oh, perfect. So this is a tool where you can see, I'm not sure if that's visible. It is now. Animation range. So you can see if you set the animation range to any of these values, what happens, and the end you can set to any of these values. So it's these values plus a percentage. So by default, it's cover 0 and the animation ends, I think it's also cover 100%. These are the default when you don't specify any animation range. So now you see something at the bottom, the red one, that's the box that is scrolling. Okay, so that's the entire page, and that red box is where we have set the animation. So you can see this gray box, right? So that's where the animation starts. Now it turns green. So when it turns green, that means the animation has started. That's what I told you, right? When even a small percentage of it is visible, it starts animating. So animation goes on and it ends. It becomes red again here. It's out of the page. So these two positions are cover 0% and cover 100%. But instead, if we want to start the animation when the image is entirely visible, you use contain, right? So look at that. So contain is like you want to start it when entire thing is visible, and you also want to end it when the entire thing is visible. You use these values called contain. So now it doesn't start. See, it's in red. It's still in red. Only when the entire thing is in the viewport, then it becomes green, right? So, and it finishes. It finishes even before a part of it starts exiting. And then there are other things like, I mean, you can even set the end range to entry. So that way, as soon as it enters completely, the animation ends. So this way, the moment part of it is visible, the animation ends. And once it's entered, the ends. I think this is the behavior which our gallery can use. This one, I'll close this. So the moment it's completely in the visibility, we can set the animation to end. So what we're going to do is, I will say animation range end entry. So as soon as the entire object has entered, we're going to stop the animation. Let's see how this looks now. So I'll refresh. And why? Yeah, so you can notice I've set it only to the 4th, 5th, and 6th image, which is why it's not working. Yeah, so now I've set it to both. Let me refresh again. So notice that the second row, the moment it's entered, the animation ends, right? So this is what happens. If you find this, the animation is ending too soon, you can change this to, let's say, contain 50% or something. So then when it's within 50% of the viewport, it ends. Again, I'll have to add this to both. Refresh. So this is what happens. So exactly when it's in the middle, that is 50% of the viewport, the animation ends. So you can play around with these values to see what fits best for you. Let's look at one other demo. This is the last one. So here, I guess I'll have to reload again. So here is with live server. Yeah, this is a simple page. It just has some text and one image. But you remember you saw this demo of the Chrome website where the image came to the view and then it became full screen. If you remember that demo, that's what we're going to do here. It's pretty simple again. You just have a paragraph, one image, and a paragraph again, and some styles which I've already set. But mainly, let's create a keyframes zoom or something where 0% it's, let's not use any opacity. We're just setting the transform scale as 1 when it's at 0%. At 100%, I set this to zoom completely, which is, I think, scale 1.5. Yeah, so because I have set the image size, if you look at the, I've set this to 66.67% of the viewport. So that's why when I set the scale as 1.5, that's full screen. Right, so at 0% it's scale 1, at 100% it's scale 1.5. And now let's use the animation. Using the animation CSS property, I say scale, and I don't say any seconds, not needed. I'll say ease in out and forwards. And here, let me attach it to the view timeline, animation timeline, view without any parameters. And let's not even use the animation range yet. Let's see what this gives us, okay? So now if I refresh, nothing happens. Interesting. Of course, something has to go wrong. Oh yeah, this is not scale, this is zoom. This is the keyframes that we want to use. Great. Yeah. So now as I scroll, notice that it becomes full screen, but not where we want. When the image is almost about to exit the screen, that's when it becomes full screen. That's why we need to specify the animation range. So now we can even use the short form. So we can say contain, because I want to start, the first value is the animation range start value. So I want it to start zooming after the entire thing is visible. So contain is where it starts. And I want it to stop when it is exactly in the middle, like that's when it should become full screen. So we use this property before. I say contain 50%. So that's like when it's exactly at the center. So now if I refresh, this is what happens. You see, it's pretty smooth, and the user will be like, oh wow, this is nice. That's what happened in the Chrome website. So this is how you can play around with animations. Just two CSS properties. One is the animation timeline, and the other one is the animation range. And there is so much that you can do with it, right? So these were the demos that we looked at. And finally, even if you haven't listened to any of what I said so far, you must listen to the do's and don'ts, because these are really important. So what you should do is you should respect the user's preference. So in the system settings, if the user has said, I want reduced motion, then you absolutely have to listen to that. You don't simply set these animations. I know I did this in my demo, because I already gave the motion warning. So don't simply set it to everything and leave it at that. Please check if the user has preferred reduced motion. Use the media queries and check if the user does that. Then either remove the animations entirely, set it to none, or probably give them a very subtle animation, maybe opacity from 0.9 to 1 or something. Don't make things move around a lot. That's something you must absolutely follow. This is not just with respect to scroll-driven animations. This is with respect to any animation at all. And then this is another thing that's very important. Remember I told you these animations run on the compositor thread and not on the main thread? That is only when you animate these properties like opacity, scale, rotate, translate, only these. Now remember that ball moved from left to right, right? So I could have animated it another way. That is, I could have set left to 0 and left to 100. I could have animated the left CSS property, but when I do that, it runs on the main thread, because it is changing the entire layout. Left is a layout property, and when the browser paints the layout, it has to again change the layout, then it goes through the paint, and then it comes to the composite property. So it will do a repaint, and then it will run on the main thread. So you're not going to get the same performance. Then you might as well use JavaScript, or you're not looking at the performance. So try wherever you can. If you're moving things around, don't use left, right, top, bottom. Instead use translate. And if you are increasing the size and reducing it, don't use width and height. Instead use scale. That's what we did, right? Scale 0 to 1. That way it's going to be the most performant. It will run on the compositor thread. So don't animate layout or print properties. If you want to change the color, it's quite heavy, but you can change the opacity easily. That is very light on the browser. Another thing is, like I said, opacity and transform are the only two properties that will work best. And don't animate just because you can, just because now you have the superpowers, you know how to do it, just make everything fly around. Don't do that. Do animate some images here and there, or some text here and there, just to add that delight and good experience. Don't make the user feel sick. So that's about it. That's a wrap. Any questions? Okay, I'll still be available. I'll be available here or outside till the end of the day. So if you still have some questions, you can ask me. These demos are not yet available, but it's just a 2 minutes thing for me to put it up on CodePen. So if somebody's really interested, reach out and I will share the CodePen with you. This is my YouTube channel. You can, like I said, Tailwind CSS, lots of tutorials are available if you want to check them out. If you want to subscribe just to support me, please do. And I have a couple of books on CSS. Yeah.
Is there any way we can check that our animation is running on a computer?
Yes, there are dev tools where you can check them. I'll probably share the link with you, later when you let me know. Yeah, there are